welcome back everybody. So I have a small project that I want to try to take care of here now that summertime's coming in and it's grilling season, but it's also Blackstone season. So I've had this Blackstone, I don't know, for a few years now. But with it being a tabletop version, I've never really had a good place to put it. And I actually found this stand with wheels in the basement, but the stand with wheels is pretty well junk. So what I would like to do is maybe repurpose it and reuse it and make it more of a permanent stand for this Blackstone. That way, one, I can use it more, slide it around, bring it in and out of the basement a little bit easier than it has been currently. I keep it in the basement just to try to help it not get so rusty. And yeah, I could build something else or buy a stand, but like I said, I had this one in the basement and it seemed like a good option for me. So let's take a look at it. So you can see this thing has been through it and it is super old. So I'm going to take whatever this particle board is out and trash it, and then hopefully take some paint stripper and strip some of this greenish blue paint, whatever color this is. I'm going to try to get it out of here and get it cleaned up. That way I can kind of get it down to its base area and probably repaint it. I'll probably just take some spray paint, like some black spray paint or something like that, and paint the frame. Now, I've had access to a sawmill over the last few months, and I have some scrap pieces that those guys have given me that I might use as my top, and then I'll plan on possibly adding a shelf kind of midway through, of course, for spatulas or whatever you want to throw down there and get them attached up. But that's my game plan at the moment. I'll show you some of the wood that I have. Some of it's cedar, some of it's white oak. None of it's kiln dried, none of it's super dry, but again, this is for my backyard. It's not something super fancy, and I'm probably going to have to replace the wheels on there because they're pretty rough. So maybe I can clean them up and salvage them, but most likely I'm just going to need to go to the store and buy some new ones. So let's get after it. I've got the cart on its side. Let's take a look at these old wheels right here. So aside from being super dirty, which is exactly what they are, it's just nasty. I don't know if they screw on or they're just, obviously they're not the best wheels that we've ever seen. Maybe I need to take a screwdriver and take this part out. They don't seem too bad. I think a good cleaning. Oops, there was the ball bearing. Good cleaning and some oil would go a long way. Yeah. See you later, ants. All right, this thing's been drying for a handful of minutes. It's pretty hot out here today and the wind's blowing pretty good, so it didn't take no time to dry. So I've got this huge limb just fell from one of these pin oak trees, which I'll have to go clean up here before too long. But like I was saying, got some paint stripper here. I'm gonna pour it in this little red bucket. See what it does. Hopefully this stuff's still good. I don't know if it has an expiration date or not, but not a ton in here. But if I can get the bulk of it or some of it off with this, it should help eliminate some of the sanding that I'm gonna have to do. There's a lot less in there than I thought. Make a little go a long way. All right. Didn't take but a second. Plus there was barely any paint stripper left, so it says wait around 30 minutes at least. I'll probably let it sit out here for, I really don't know. I'm gonna go check out that limb, throw it on the fire that I've got started over here, and I'll come back to this in just a little bit. All right, here's the limb that fell while I was over there trying to strip the paint off. Yeah, I think that's where it broke off, maybe. Could be wrong. There's a lot of limbs just like this one up in that tree, ready to fall at any minute. All right, I'm down in the basement, and this is a random live edge piece of cedar. And I want to try to use this as the top for a couple different reasons. One, I have it, so that's the easiest. Two, should be pretty good weather resistant. This thing's not going to be out in the weather too much anyways, but for some odd reason it is. It's somewhat weather resistant. And two, or third, I should say, obviously I'm going to, if you flip it that way and do it sideways, that's going to be my width. I'm going to make it a little bit longer than the cart itself, which is 24 inches wide. And I think the Blackstone's only 16 inches deep. So I'm not worried about a depth from left to right as we're looking at it from here on the camera, but I'll figure out a dimension, what I'm going to do from top to bottom as we look at from it this way. That way I can mount it to the top and it should sit just right on top of there. And it's kind of dark over here on this side, but you can see all these pieces of white oak right here. And I want to use some of these, probably just one of them, cut it up into a few pieces and have it sit down in the bottom part of the cart as a shelf. I'll probably take maybe this long skinny piece right here and probably cut it into 4 or 5 pieces. Maybe pocket hole it together, something like that, or just take some slats or something on the bottom side, and that way it sticks together, and probably get some small little L brackets to attach everything to the metal frame, get some self-tapping screws or something like that. But I'm going to keep this pretty simple. This is rough sawn wood, so it's already probably around 1 inch thick. Some of these pieces range from 6 inches wide, 4.5 inches wide, 5 inches wide. Like I said, this is rough sawn lumber that was just given to me. So I'll make use of what I can with the pieces that are the most similar. That way, if I start to joint them together, they won't have as much thickness variation. So we'll get to that part here in a little bit, but that's some of the pieces that I was thinking about using while I wait on this paint stripper to dry. And I've moved the cart indoors because I didn't fully read the instructions on the stripper where it said, don't put it in direct sunlight. So it's pretty sunny today and it's like 85 degrees. So I pretty much didn't follow any of the instructions on that. So hopefully it works. If not, I'll just sand what I can. That way I can get this thing prepped up for some black spray paint or something like that. Okay, so it's been a little over an hour and the stripper has started working a little bit. You can see the little bubbly areas right here. And I did a little test area right here to strip some of it back. So we'll get over here, start scrubbing on this a little bit. And this is pretty much all I have to scrub with. I can't find my wire brush right now, but this should work pretty good. You can see where I scrubbed it right over there with this. So I'll see how that goes, and then we'll complete one more step. Okay, I went to the store, got some more paint stripper. It was definitely needed. And I went again and got another wire brush too, so that helped out quite a bit. So this thing is pretty well got most of the paint stripped off of it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get it in from outside because I think it's going to start rusting ASAP. If I don't, I'm going to let it finish drying in there, and then I'll move on to sanding and spray painting it probably within the next day or so. All right, it's the next day, and I've let this thing dry. And I want to go ahead and get a quick sand on here. Probably, I don't know, 2 or 3, maybe, just kind of depends on how I feel. But I want to go ahead and get it sanded up and get at least 1 coat of spray paint on it. That way, you can try to help stop some of the rust that could potentially take place. As it's fresh metal now, so we'll go ahead and get this started. That way I can get that going. All right, I've been sanding for about an hour, and I went ahead and made the executive decision that I'm doing 1 sanding. I'm just going to use some 80 grit, take some of these scrap pieces, and try to get some of these cracks that I couldn't get with the sander. And I'm going to go from there because sanding's terrible. Figure I'll try to paint these bottom sides first so that they can at least get 1 coat. I'm not going for fancy. This is going to be in my basement just like it's been for the last who knows how long. Just going to hold a Blackstone that nobody will ever see but all of you. All right, I got plenty of drip, but I really don't care at the moment. So I'm gonna let that dry. As hot as it is today, it shouldn't take very long. And then I'll come back out here and flip it over, get to the other side that I couldn't get. It's just that one bottom side, and touch up where it needs a little extra, like right in front of my face. There. Now I'm gonna see if I can get that snake out of the chicken coop. All right, that's what it looks like so far. It's been a few hours. So I'm gonna take this tape off the bottom here, put the wheels back on. I clean those up pretty good, but I've got some D40 that I'm gonna use to try to grease them up before I put them back on there. Hopefully they roll a little bit better than they had been. Might need to have to go get some new casters. But hopefully not, since they're already here. All right, now I've reached the project where I got to make some decisions on I want this piece of cedar to sit on top. Now, this piece of cedar is not great I don't plan on straightening it up. There is a relatively straight side over here that I probably will use as my alignment. Again, I'm not going for perfection here. It's literally a 5-inch slab that's going on top of a car that's going to be in my basement, in my backyard, for a Blackstone that I'm going to use from time to time. So it's got a lot of voids in the center of this piece of wood. It's not perfect, but the point of it is I'm probably going to this jagged edge here and put it somewhere along this line and probably cut that line over there. And this will probably be the back part. Have this side. Yeah, I'm probably going to put the part face down. And the Blackstone's only like 6 inches wide, so it'll have a foot somewhere in these areas. I'm not going for perfection. I have the wood. And it seemed like a decent use for it because I have no idea what else I was ever going to use a piece of live edge cedar for. So I'm going to sit up here, get some ballpark measurements where I think it can sit to where it looks okay without looking too goofy. I think there is a bit of a rough feel to it. And I won't need to actually cut too much. Let's see. Slide it this way. Of course, I don't have a shop up here yet, so I'm doing everything else. So nothing's flat, nothing's level. Nothing is the way that you want it to be to do anything like this. I want a little bit of overhang just so you're cooking right here and you pull the lid up. Mine has a lid. I bought a lid for it. And you're frying, you have a finished product. You can put either your utensils that you're using here, like your spatulas or whatever, put them here, or a plate. And same for this. So right now we're sitting around 14 inches. I think I only need to be around a foot, maybe. So right here, I'm not going for perfection. This is 14.5 inches. This side is from this point around 14.5. Nothing crazy. I don't mind this little right here. I mean, this is not made to fit on here, but it's got 3 points of contact: 1, 2, and 3. Same thing, 1, 2, 3, and then even this last piece over here where that part sticks out, and that can probably help with the drip tray that's on the back side of it. So I'm gonna take a few measurements, get this thing marked up, and then we'll take them over to the sawhorses that I have set over here, and we'll go ahead and get those lines. One thing that I am a bit nervous about is this part of the crack. We're gonna have to cut through it, and then that will create a split. It's not the end of the world. If this ends up being a catastrophe or whatever, I'll just go get more wood. I mean, it is what it is. It's just meant for the backyard, but it's neat. I think it blends good with the black, so we'll go that way. And what I could do is take another piece of wood and potentially on the underside piece it together. I'm not fancy enough to do any inlays or anything like that. I don't know how to do it anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it. This side gave me some fits. Definitely right there on that crack, there was a lot of tension that was in there. So I got the blade bound up quite a few times, but I took some relief cuts and just took my time, and it looked like that did the trick. And now I'm gonna get this in there. I'm going to do a light sand just to knock down some of the little lines here from the sawmill and probably break over these little sharp cut edges. And that's probably all I'm going to do. I'm not putting any type of finish or anything on this, but just a light sand. All right, so now I've got this piece of white oak that I'm going to try to use as my shelf. Well, first off, you can already tell that this board is bowed. It's not straight. I don't have a joiner, don't have a planer. I don't have any way to straighten this out right now, so I'm going to roll with it. Again, I don't too terribly care about it being exactly perfect for this little stand. It's just going to be a small shelf that's going to go on the bottom side somewhere in there. So it's not uniform all the way across, but I'll try to get the most similar pieces that I can to fit on the inside of this. So I'll need to measure from the inside poles for that square, and I've got some little L brackets to attach everything. So hopefully that all works out, but I'll get some measurements, then I'll start cutting this piece right here, and we'll see about get it on pocket hold together and move on to the next step. So the inside of the cart, from inside pole to the inside pole is 21 7/8. So I'm going to try to, since this piece is not uniform, I'm going to start on this big end and try to get as many big pieces that I can. See if we can get that. So right here we're at 4.5. Basically where it stops at 4.5 is probably where I'm going to cut it. Turns out that piece was not long enough, so thankfully I have more, and I even have more white oak inside if I need a few more pieces. Now this stuff, compared to the cedar, it's a lot more rough. All right, so my goal is I'll piece all 5 of these together and then either rip this piece or some of that one. I don't know, I'll figure it out in a minute, but got to get the right orientation of it. I just went and grabbed the piece and didn't think about how thick it was. Made a planer. All right, I got my pieces sanded up. It's very rough sand. I just took some 80 grit to clean them up because they were pretty dirty, and I think you can tell a difference. So here's what a lot of that wood looked like before. You can see the dirt and just how nasty some of this wood was, and pretty good difference there. So what my goal is now is, like I said, I'm gonna try to get the right or the best orientation that I can with these. I might put these bigger pieces on the outside. Everything trying to crayon in a similar direction, and then again, this is not going to be a perfect thing because it was never intended to be, and try to pocket hole them together here on the, I'm assuming, well, I might flip them around and do it from the other side, but hopefully I can get the tops relatively similar. Now, of course, if I had a planer and a joiner and all that kind of good stuff and milled this wood and if it was kiln dried and all that kind of stuff, it would be ideal. I don't have any of that stuff, and so it's not. So this is what I'm working with, and I think it's just going to do perfectly fine for what my purposes are for it. So let's get the jig out. I've only got the little single pocket hole jig, so it's going to take me a few minutes. That's no big deal. I'll just take my time and get it done. All right, this thing pocket hole together. It was a lot more difficult than I thought it would be, but of course pocket holes are a pain in the butt, and they'll serve the purpose for what I'm trying to accomplish with this. It's just going to be a shelf. So what I'm going to do here is give me some lines on these outside pieces since they're a little bit wider. Cut them down to whatever they need to be. That way it fits inside the card over there. So let's get to it. All right, so now we've got to the point where it is mounting time. But before I mount, if one is a savvy builder, they probably already know what the problem is with this, other than it being just a jacked up piece of wood and slammed together with pocket holes. But my measurements I took for inside on each bar here. With me doing that, what that ended up doing was I made it to where it sits perfectly within inside of it with no way to mount it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another piece of wire over there, cut some pieces to length, probably rip it down or something like that, and then I'll have some runners, depending on which way I orient this, that will screw one to the bars, but as well to this. So I have a way to mount on this. I'll go do that. It's been raining over the last little bit, so my progress has been slowed down. I could do it down here in the basement, but I don't want to. It's already nasty enough. I don't want to nasty anymore. All right, this is by far the thing I'm most worried about doing, and the biggest reason why is I'm going to be drilling an L bracket into this metal, and I got some self-tapping screws. And just like everything else on this project, my math is not good. And so I have only 10 and I needed like 16. I have no idea why I chose 10. So I have enough to get me started. I don't have any doubt with that. But now I need to figure out a height that I want to try to set this to. That way I can make some marks and go from there. It went surprisingly okay. All right, I'm going to look to get these attached. So my two runners that I've made, they fit perfectly on this side, but this side is actually slightly shorter and that side's slightly bigger. It slides perfectly in on that side, but over here it's super tight. So I've been having to hand beat it in just a little bit just to get it to seat. And I think with the screw, it probably should get where we need it. And I'll have to probably level it back out just a tad. I know this one needs to come out. I need a hammer. All right, I knew that this looked like this, but now with how it is set up, and like I was saying earlier, I probably could have just screwed it straight in. I have a feeling I think it's going to be a better finish if I go ahead and undo all my pocket holes and then put 2 screws in each board all the way across and go that route. Now again, obviously, like, these pieces are not the same thickness, but that's okay. We're going for a more rustic look. So I think that's the route I should take. So I might as well take the time and go ahead and knock it out. All right, I got most of the pocket holes taken out, and you can see there's still some gaps in there, of course, because the wood is crowned and it's rough sawn and I can go down the list. But this is a little bit better looking compared to the rainbow that we had a second ago. So I'm gonna drill some pilot holes in each and every one of these on both sides. I've got a little countersink bit that I'm going to try to use to help with that. Then I'm going to use the shortest screws I have, which are 1 5/8 inches, and hopefully they don't blow through the bottom, since this is roughly 1 3/4, 2 inch material, depending on the thickness of either end or the middle pieces. So hopefully I don't blow it out, but we're going to give it a shot and go from there. All right, here's a brief glimpse of what it should look like, but my next problem is the brackets like these. I bought 2 sets, and clearly I wasn't thinking ahead. That's not going to work for this top part, so I need to go back to the store and get some smaller L brackets that are probably 1 inch by 1 inch. That way I can put them here, here, probably back over here. I mean, there's even a center bar here, so I got options to do that. But I just need to get some shorter ones, just because I don't have any bars like I did on this one, since this one's sitting on top. Again, like I said, I wasn't thinking ahead, but it's too late in the day to go to the store now. I'll just wait until tomorrow and go do that. No big deal. And we'll see you back here whenever that time comes. All right, I've been to the store and I'm back outside, and I'm hoping to finally get this thing mounted, or the top mounted to the base. Then I'll clean everything up, throw the wheels back on, get those good and greased up again, and hopefully start cooking on this thing, because this has been a treat. There is no doubt. So the goal is around 12 inches on each side. Again, I'm not going for perfect. There's nothing perfect about this whole thing. So clearly I need to come this way just a little bit. All right, so these are the clips that I ended up getting. They're 3/4 inches, and they should sit a lot better. They had inch ones, but I was scared the hole might be a little bit too close to the side. So I went ahead and got 3/4, and that looks like that's better than the other. So may need to clamp it down so it sits flush, because there's, or as flush as possible. This side's a lot better. Then we'll get this thing screwed on here, put it back down, put the Blackstone on top, and cook something. See if I can get this thing off without breaking it, because it's pretty heavy now. I swear, I still think this shelf is actually heavier than the piece of cedar up there. But it all put together now is pretty heavy. I need 2 sets of hands. I'm gonna get it cleaned up. Time to use it. All right, that should pretty well wrap this thing up. Of course, there's plenty of other things I could have done and still do to this thing, but for the purposes, for me, it's going to work out absolutely perfect. Can't wait to have some friends over here. That way we can start cooking on it a little bit easier. That way I don't have to set up a table and all this kind of stuff. Now it has a dedicated cart. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.